Hey there, YouTubers. This is your Living Fully Fit coach, Coach AJ, and you're watching another episode of Living Fully Fit. Have you ever wondered why people tend to stick in toxic relationships? Whether it's toxic friendships or toxic dating or romantic relationships or toxic marriages or even toxic family relationships, connections, right? We tend to go after what we're used to. Usually it's trends. Usually it's things that we're kind of conditioned to be part of. A lot of times it's from our past. A lot of the relationships that we connect with are because something happened in our past that has got us to be wired to think that this is okay in a relationship. Maybe you were raised in an abusive relationship with seeing your parents interact, so in your mind you think that's okay now. I think a lot of us get caught up in this kind of toxicity of our relationships, of friendships. Maybe you've been in friendships where people tend to use you and misuse you and treat you and talk down to you. And why is it we keep going after those same relationships and the same connections? That's the question we have to ask ourselves and be honest with. Maybe it is something you've dealt with in your past and you haven't let go of, you haven't gotten help from. I would suggest and really strongly suggest here is go seek help. Find a counselor. Sometimes counselors have a way of drawing things out of us that we didn't even realize ourselves. And they're really good at listening and kind of giving us a guide and a map to where everything started. It all starts somewhere, right? It all begins at some point. And we attract toxic relationships a lot of times because we have dealt with this for so long, so we think that is the natural and healthy way to do things because that's how we're conditioned. Does it make it right? No, it doesn't. But it's part of the process of how we live our lives. Think about it. If you're someone right now who is in a toxic marriage or a toxic dating relationship, or having a toxic friend who just cuts you down and tears you down all the time, makes you feel inadequate, makes you feel you're less than a person. Think about that. Why are you with that person? Is it because you're afraid? Because what if I leave this person or I disconnect from this person, this friend or whatever it is? Will I miss out on something? Will I ever find love again? Right? We ask these questions all the time. That's a life being driven by fear. If we live our lives and we are guided by fear, we'll always be stuck. We'll always be miserable. That's why we have to get outside of our comfort zone. Look outside, like from a third-person view of our lives. And that sometimes takes a third-person view into our lives to realize what we need, right? Whether it's the idea of, I need to get away from this person because they are no good for me. Or this family member who keeps cutting me down and tearing me down and making me feel inadequate and like I'm not good enough. And here's the reality here. If we don't get at that mindset, we tend to honestly pass that down. We need to stop it here. Stop it now. Otherwise, for instance, let's say you're in a very toxic marriage. Well, I don't want a divorce because the kids love both of us. I get that. But your kids are eventually going to see the toxicity of your relationship, and they're going to start believing that's okay and that's what they should strive for in their relationship. And see what's going to happen here. It's going to be passed down from generation to generation, an ongoing trend and cycle. Toxic relationships aren't going to help you. You can't fix the person. You can't, right? And if that other friend or family member is unwilling to hear you out, you can't fix them either. You can't change their mindset, how they treat you and how they react if they're unwilling to hear you out and listen to what you have to say. I've dealt with this in my own life, being connected with people who you try to tell them how you feel and how it makes you feel, how they treat you, and they just kind of shut you down, get defensive and deflect it. If you are constantly fighting that battle of deflection and they're unwilling to hear you out and listen to you, it's time to cut the ties. Let's be honest here. How many of you are in those kind of relationships? And I'm not talking about just dating, romantic relationships. I'm talking about any kind of relationship or connection where you are constantly reaching out, trying to solve the issue, trying to work it out, trying to communicate issues, trying to communicate what you need and also communicate what they need because you're also in tune with that. If you're in a one-sided relationship, whether it's friendship, family, dating, whatever, it's time to rewire and rethink how you do things. It's time to think about, well, how do you cut this out? And you have to make some serious, tough choices here. These aren't easy choices, obviously. You don't want to just cut someone out of your life willy-nilly, but you do need to do it in a way that's respectful, do it in a way that helps you and doesn't have a lot of collateral damage. Because anytime you cut someone out of your life, there's going to be some collateral damage. But we want to mitigate that. We want to mitigate the collateral damage to make it a minimum, not a maximum. We don't want to hurt the people in order to find true healing ourselves. We do want to find healing. That way we can have and show people around us and experience healthy relationships in every aspect of our lives. Whether it's that parent or that brother or sister or that significant other, or maybe it's your own kid, or coworker, whoever it is, we need to rewire our minds and get right with how we deal with toxic people. But I would say first, have the conversation if you haven't already. But have it in a way, say, hey, when you say or do these things, this makes me feel this way. And if they're receptive, amazing, great, you made some ground and you can move forward a little bit. But if they are totally deflective, I'm not saying give up just yet. Give them some time to process what you told them and then try again. But I'd say if after a few tries and you're still getting backlash, you're still getting deflection, you're still getting a wall from them, it's time to make another decision. So second of all, what you need to start looking at is this person worth being in my life? I know it's a hard decision to make. It's very difficult. Do they bring value to me? Do they make me feel valuable? And I would kind of turn around on yourself. Do I make someone feel valuable too? And maybe you're the toxic person, so think about that. But as we're talking about how people make us feel, think about that. As you're about to think about cutting that person out or breaking up or unfriending that person in your life, that's a common thing we use in social media, right? Unfriending. But in all reality, it happens in life, right? We gain friends, we lose friends. It happens all the time. You have to understand, does that person bring value to you? If they don't, if they're constantly cutting you down and making you feel small about yourself, they're diminishing your value, it's time to make those hard questions and say, okay, is this person worth keeping in my life? Are they going to make me feel worse as I grow? Are they going to help me grow? Are they going to help me stay stagnant or become lower than I am? And those are hard questions you have to ask yourself. Do they bring value? And let's say, number 3, you've ascertained the reality and the truth of that. And you say, yep, they don't bring value to my life. Well, then how do you have that conversation? You have to have it, obviously. You can't ignore it. You can't deflect it. Otherwise, it's going to create this poison in your soul and in your heart. It's going to affect every relationship you're in because it's going to hurt you. And when people are hurt, they also hurt. Hurt people hurt people. Remember this one, right? So what we have to do is start having that conversation with ourselves. Realize our value. And then you need to make that drastic decision and have that sit-down conversation. Don't do it over text. I mean, if you can't do a sit-down, then you might have to make that phone call. Or, hey, we have FaceTime. We have all this technology. But don't do it over text or email or a letter. Do it respectfully. See eye to eye if you can. Or voice to voice, right? But either way, have that conversation where you can say, look, I've given you chance after chance. We've talked this through. I have tried everything I can to make this friendship, family, dating relationship, marriage work. Here's where I am. Here's where I stand. You make me feel not valuable. You make me feel low and small. And I don't like that feeling. It's hurting me. And I've brought this to your attention before. And because of this, because you have made me feel this way, because you have ignored every sign I've given you in conversation we've tried to have to make leeway, I'm going to have to say goodbye. I'm going to have to cut ties. Not saying I don't care and love you or whatever it is, but for my self-worth, my self-value, to help the others around me, whether it's my kids or family or friends, whatever, I need to cut you out. And not because I want to, because I need to. And here's the thing, when you take the want out of the need, because you do need to, when you have someone that toxic in your life just taking jabs and destroying your value and your security in who you are and who you're made to be, then you have to cut that person out eventually, right? So I know these are hard conversations to have and hard conversations to think about, but they have to happen. And once that happens, I know it's going to be hard. It's going to be a lot of emotion. And you might have those moments where you break down and that's okay. That's okay. It's okay to break down and mourn a loss. Because what you're doing, you're mourning something you lost. But here's the beautiful thing. If that person really meant something to you and you meant something to them, they would bring value to your life and not diminish your value. They would bring joy and peace to your life and not chaos and anger and cut downs or whatever it is. So you're not losing much. Yeah, you lost something, but you're not losing much. And then that gives you a whole open door to what God can put in your life. It gives you a whole opportunity to see what else comes your way, whether it's a really good family member that you've never really talked to or acknowledged, or maybe a brand new friend who's really going to encourage you and help you grow, or maybe that right person you were supposed and meant to date or marry, whoever. It's time to look at it that way. So when you begin to do that and you start opening your door to possibilities and not keep going the same redundant trend of toxic people, then you're going to see yourself grow and thrive like no other. So my encouragement is ask the serious and honest question: do they bring value to your life? Are they bringing you down? Are they bringing you up? I know this is hard, but I guarantee you it's going to be worth it. I would recommend for sure is as you're transitioning into this new trend and transitioning from old life to new life, I'd recommend finding a good counselor who's going to help flesh some of the things and feelings and experiences out. That way you can find healthy relationship and healthy connection after you disconnect from toxic relationships. Hope that helps you build a very healthy, fully fit relationship mindset. I'm Coach AJ, and you watched another episode of Living Fully Fit. If you like what you watch, make sure to subscribe down below. Check me out on Facebook as well, Living Fully Fit with Coach AJ on Facebook. And on Facebook, what I've been doing is adding all kinds of good content, quotes, ideas, thoughts, processes, and trying to get good dialogue and conversation on social media. Check it out. A lot of content coming your way as you grow and continue to grow in Living Fully Fit. Take care.